The night sky above the alien city was heavy with smoke and neon light. Ships passed in the distance like shadows of predators, their engines humming low. The human, his name was Daniel, walked quickly, keeping his head down. He did not belong here, not in this lawless district where danger lived in every shadow. Daniel only came for one reason. He had heard rumors that rare alien technology could be found here, devices the galactic authorities would never allow on open markets. If he could buy one, maybe he could sell it and pay off his debts. That was all. One deal. Then he would leave. But the deeper he walked into the market, the stranger it became. The stalls were not like human markets. They were cages, glowing crates, strange glass jars filled with beating hearts and twitching alien organs. The sellers whispered in languages he could not understand. Eyes followed him from the dark. A tall alien with skin like stone stopped him. "Human," the alien hissed. "You walk too far. You seek something forbidden." Daniel forced a nervous smile. "I'm just looking." The alien's mouth curled in something that was not quite a smile. "Then look closely." He shoved Daniel toward a wide platform lit by red lamps. A crowd had gathered, faces hidden by hoods, eyes shining with greed. Daniel froze. He realized this was not a market for goods. It was an auction. A booming voice filled the air. "Tonight," the auctioneer shouted, "we sell not only weapons, not only machines. Tonight, we sell lives." The crowd roared. Chains rattled. From the shadows, a cage was dragged forward. Inside was a figure sitting on the floor, head bowed, wrists bound in glowing cuffs. Daniel's heart raced. He took a step back. He wanted no part of this. The auctioneer struck the bars of the cage. "Behold, rare, dangerous, and beautiful. A prize taken from the blackest edges of space. An alien unlike any other." The figure inside the cage slowly lifted her head. Daniel's breath caught. It was a girl. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if lit from within by hidden fire. Her eyes glowed silver, sharp and endless like the stars. Her face was calm, but there was something in her gaze that made Daniel's chest tighten. A power, a secret, something dangerous. The crowd shouted bids in alien tongues. The numbers rose higher and higher. Daniel shook his head. He had to leave. This was madness. He turned to slip away into the crowd. "Sold!" the auctioneer shouted suddenly, pointing directly at him. "To the human!" Daniel froze. "What? No, I didn't." The crowd jeered and hissed, some laughing, some cursing. Guards shoved him forward. The cage door creaked open. The girl stepped out, chains clinking softly. She was tall, graceful, and every movement carried quiet strength. She walked straight to Daniel and stopped only inches from him. Daniel's mouth went dry. I didn't buy you." Her glowing eyes locked on his. For a long moment, the market around them seemed to fall silent. Then she spoke. Her voice was low, soft, but it carried a weight that made his blood run cold. "You are mine now." Daniel stumbled back. "No, you don't understand. I don't want this. I don't even have the money." But the girl reached out, touching his arm. Her skin was warm, almost burning. Chains rattled as she leaned close, her lips near his ear. "I chose you." The words sank into him like knives. Before he could reply, alarms screamed through the market. Red lights flashed. The ground shook with heavy footsteps. "Raid!" someone shouted. "The patrol is here!" Panic exploded. Buyers and sellers scattered. Guards raised their weapons. Smoke filled the air. Daniel coughed, pushing through the chaos. He tried to run, but the girl stayed close, never letting go of his arm. Her strength is terrifying. He could not pull free. "This way!" he shouted, dragging her toward a narrow alley. Blaster fire cracked behind them, cutting through bodies. The air stank of ozone and burning flesh. They ran past broken cages, past screaming aliens, past the flashing lights of patrol drones. Daniel's lungs burned, but the girl moved like a shadow, silent, effortless. At last they ducked into a ruined tunnel, the sounds of the raid fading behind them. Daniel bent over, gasping. His heart pounded like a drum. He turned on her, his voice shaking with anger and fear. "Why are you following me? I don't know you. I don't want you." She only watched him, her glowing eyes calm and unreadable. "You cannot leave me," she said softly. "Not now. Not ever." Her chains fell with a sudden metallic crack, as if shattered by unseen force. The glowing cuffs that had bound her wrists dissolved into sparks. She straightened, taller now, stronger, her eyes burning brighter than before. Daniel's skin prickled with fear. Something inside him whispered that she was not a victim, but a predator who had just chosen him. The tunnel was silent except for his heavy breathing. Finally, she stepped closer. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You belong to me." And in that moment, Daniel realized with icy dread, He was the one trapped, not her. The tunnel walls shook with the sound of explosions behind them. Red light from the raid flickered through the cracks in the stone, chasing shadows across the floor. Daniel's breath came sharp and ragged, but the alien girl beside him was calm, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dark. He pressed his back against the wall, trying to think. He wanted to believe this was just a nightmare, something that would fade when he woke up. But the heat of her touch on his arm, the sound of shouts echoing from the market, the smell of smoke and blood, all of it was real. He whispered harshly, "Listen, whoever you are, you need to go your own way. I don't want any part of this. Understand? I didn't buy you. I did. And choose you." The girl tilted her head slightly, as if his words were strange. Her chains, now broken, lay scattered at her feet. "But I chose you," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "That is enough." Daniel swore under his breath. He pushed past her and started down the tunnel. He didn't know where it led, but anywhere was better than here. The authorities were ruthless. If they caught him near that auction, he'd be imprisoned, or worse. But when he glanced back, she was still following, silent and unshaken, her steps matching his. "Stop following me," he snapped. "You're free now, don't you get it? Go!" For a moment he thought she might listen. She stopped walking, standing still in the shadows, but then her eyes burned brighter, and she stepped forward again, her voice carrying an edge of something darker. "Free?" she whispered. "I was never chained. Not really. I was waiting." Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't know what she meant, but there was no time to argue. Behind them, shouts grew louder. Patrol drones buzzed like angry insects, their lights cutting through the smoke. "Move!" Daniel hissed, grabbing her arm despite the heat that radiated from her skin. Together, they ran deeper into the tunnel. The ground sloped downward, damp air rushing past them. Pipes dripped overhead, leaking foul water. Their footsteps echoed like gunshots. Daniel's legs burned, but the girl's stride never faltered. She moved with the grace of someone who had no fear of exhaustion, no fear of being hunted. At last they burst out into a forgotten sector of the city. Broken towers leaned against each other like dying giants. The sky above was dark, filled with the roar of ships and the glow of distant fires. Daniel bent over, hands on his knees, gasping for air. His clothes were torn, his lungs aching. He glanced at her again, frustrated. "Why me?" he demanded. "Out of everyone in that market. Why me? What do you want from me?" Her gaze was steady, her glowing eyes never blinking. "Humans are rare here," she said simply. "But more than that, humans are different. You are stubborn. You fight even when you cannot win. That is why I chose you." Daniel stared at her. He wanted to laugh, but the seriousness in her tone froze the sound in his throat. He shook his head. "You've got it wrong. I'm not a fighter. I came here for one stupid reason. Money. That's all." She stepped closer and Daniel found himself backing away without meaning to. Her presence was overwhelming, like standing too close to a fire. "You will see the truth," she whispered. "Soon." Before he could reply, a shrill noise cut through the air. Daniel looked up and felt his stomach drop. A swarm of drones was descending on them, red lights flashing, weapons charged. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted through the ruined streets, leaping over debris and broken walls. Blaster bolts screamed past them, burning holes into the stone. Daniel stumbled, barely keeping his balance, but the girl grabbed his arm, pulling him forward with terrifying strength. She moved like lightning, dodging shots before they even fired. Her body twisted with inhuman precision, her eyes glowing brighter as the drones closed in. Then, without warning, she turned and raised her hand. A pulse of silver light erupted from her palm. The air cracked like thunder. The nearest drones exploded in a storm of sparks, their broken parts raining down. Daniel froze mid-stride, his jaw dropping. "What? What are you?" he whispered. She turned her head, her face calm. "Your protector." More drones swarmed in, but she didn't hesitate. With every step she struck them down. Her chains became weapons in her hands, glowing whips of light that tore machines apart. Daniel followed, helpless, his fear mixing with awe. At last, the last drone fell, its pieces smoking on the ground. The night was silent again. Daniel leaned against a wall, his whole body trembling. He stared at her, unable to find the right words. "You're not a slave," he finally managed to say. You're dangerous." She walked to him, her silver eyes unblinking. "Yes," she said softly. "Dangerous to your enemies, but not to you." Daniel's heart pounded as she reached out, brushing her fingers lightly against his arm again. The warmth of her touch spread through him, both terrifying and strangely comforting. "You cannot leave me," she whispered. "The bond is already made." Daniel's throat went dry. "Bond? What bond?" Her smile was faint, mysterious, almost sad. "You will understand soon. For now, we must keep moving. They will not stop hunting us." Daniel looked past her at the ruined streets, the fires burning in the distance, and the endless sky filled with shadows of warships. He felt a cold truth settling over him. He was trapped, not by chains, not by walls, but by something far more unbreakable. And the alien girl beside him, glowing in the dark, was the one holding the key. The ruins were quiet now, but Daniel knew it was only for a short time. Patrols would come again. The black market raid would not end until every witness was dead or in chains. He leaned against a broken wall, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The alien girl stood a few steps away, calm as ever, her glowing eyes watching the horizon. The silence between them was heavy. Daniel couldn't take it anymore. He shouted, his voice echoing through the ruins. "Enough! You need to tell me what's going on. Who are you? Why were you in that cage? Why are you following me?" For a moment she didn't answer. The wind carried the smell of smoke from the city. Her silver eyes flickered faintly, as though she was remembering something long ago. Finally, she turned to face him. "My name is Solara," she said quietly. Daniel frowned. "Solara? That doesn't explain anything." Her gaze stayed steady on him. "You saw chains? You saw a cage. You thought I was a prisoner. That is what they wanted you to think." Daniel blinked. "So you weren't a slave?" "No." Her voice was calm, but there was a sharp edge under the word. "I allowed myself to be taken. I let them put me on that stage." Daniel felt his stomach twist. "You chose that? Why? Why would you let them capture you?" Solara stepped closer. Her presence was almost overwhelming, like standing in the heat of a fire. "Because I was waiting," she whispered. "Waiting for you." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "That doesn't make any sense. You didn't even know me." Her eyes glowed brighter. "Not your face, not your name, but I knew your kind. Human." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He had heard stories of humans scattered across the stars, refugees, wanderers, survivors of old wars, but most aliens saw humans as weak, fragile creatures who didn't belong in the galaxy's harsher corners. "What's so special about humans?" he asked, his voice bitter. Solara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "You fight." Daniel blinked. "What?" "You fight when you are weak. You fight when the enemy is stronger. You fight even when there is no hope. I have watched many species. They give up. They kneel. They obey. But humans, they endure. That is why I chose you." Daniel shook his head. "You don't know me. I'm not a fighter. I came here to buy tech, to make money. That's it. I'm no hero." Solara tilted her head as if studying him. "You ran into the fire of the raid instead of hiding. You pulled me through the smoke when you could have left me. You fight even when you deny it." Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but the words died in his throat. He remembered the way he had grabbed her arm, dragging her through chaos. He had wanted to live, yes, but he hadn't let her die either. He rubbed his face with his hands. "This is insane." Solara stepped closer again. The glow of her eyes softened, less like burning fire and more like starlight. "There is something else you must know." "Oh," she said. Her voice dropped, heavy with meaning. "I am not just a girl from a far-off world. I am from a warrior race. My people are feared across the stars. Even the black market fears us. That is why they kept me in chains of energy. No ordinary metal could hold me." Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. "A warrior race? Then why didn't you escape before?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Because once my people choose, we never turn away. When I saw you, I knew. You are the one. My bondmate." The word hit Daniel like a blade. His breath caught in his chest. "Bondmate? No, 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 I never agreed to that." Solara's expression didn't change. "You do not need to agree. It is not a choice. It is a truth." Daniel's head spun. He took a step back, heart pounding. "You're insane. You don't even know me. I'm just a man trying to survive." But she followed, slow and steady, her voice calm, unshaken. "You are more than you believe, and now your life is bound to mine." Before Daniel could respond, a distant roar shook the ground. He turned quickly. In the sky, dark ships moved like predators, scanning the ruins with blinding lights. The black market hunters were searching. Solara's silver eyes hardened. She lifted her broken chains, gripping them like whips. They will not stop until they have me back, dead or alive. Daniel's stomach twisted with fear. Then we need to hide. No, she interrupted, her voice sharp. We fight. Daniel stared at her, horror written on his face. Fight? Are you out of your mind? They'll kill us both. Solara's lips curved into that strange, calm smile again. Not us. Them. Her eyes glowed like fire in the dark, and Daniel realized she wasn't afraid, not at all. And for the first time, he wondered if maybe she wasn't the one in danger. Maybe he was. The night sky split with the roar of engines. Dark ships hovered above town. Ruins, their lights sweeping the ground like hunting eyes. Daniel felt his stomach twist. They had found them. He crouched lower behind the broken wall, trying to steady his breath. His hands shook as he whispered, "We need to run, now." Solara stood tall beside him, her glowing eyes fixed on the descending ships. Her broken chains hung loosely in her hands, but they no longer looked like useless metal. They looked like weapons waiting to strike. "They will not stop," she said quietly, "but neither will I." Daniel grabbed her arm, panic rising in his chest. "Are you crazy? Look at them. They're armed, they're trained, and we're outnumbered. If we stay, we die." She turned her head toward him. Her expression was calm, almost too calm. "If we run, they will hunt us forever. Better to face them now." Before Daniel could argue, a sharp beam of light cut across the ruins, sweeping directly over their position. A voice boomed from above. "Target sighted. Move in." Daniel's heart pounded. Shadows spilled out of the ships. Hunters, armored aliens with glowing rifles, their footsteps heavy as they spread across the ground. "Run," Daniel whispered, pulling Solara with him. They darted through the ruins, broken towers crumbling around them. Blaster fire erupted, scorching stone and filling the air with burning smoke. Daniel stumbled, barely keeping pace, but Solara moved with terrifying speed, guiding him through the chaos. The hunters closed in fast. Their weapons lit up the dark red bolts slicing past Daniel's head. He ducked, tripped, and rolled across the dirt. His ears rang, his chest burned. "Get up!" Solara's voice cut through the noise, sharp and commanding. She hauled him to his feet as easily as lifting a child. Daniel's legs felt like lead, but her grip was unbreakable. They ran again, weaving between collapsed walls. Behind them, one of the hunters shouted, "Do not damage the girl! Kill the human if you must!" Daniel's blood went cold. "Kill the human if you must!" He pushed harder, lungs screaming, but the hunters were too fast. They were closing in from all sides. Then Solara stopped. Daniel nearly crashed into her. "What are you doing? Keep running!" She didn't answer. Her silver eyes blazed as she raised her broken chains. The hunters rounded the corner, their rifles aimed. A blaster bolt screamed toward them. Solara moved faster than Daniel's eyes could follow. The chain whipped through the air, glowing bright. The bolt ricocheted harmlessly, striking the wall. The hunters froze, shocked. Solara's voice rang out low but full of power. "Come then, face me." The nearest hunter roared and charged. Solara's chain lashed forward, wrapping around his weapon. With a single twist, she tore it from his hands and slammed it into his chest. The alien collapsed, gasping. Daniel's jaw dropped. Another hunter fired. Solara spun, her movements like flowing water. The chain sliced through the bolt midair, sending sparks across the night. She leapt forward, striking with inhuman strength. 2 hunters fell in seconds, their armor shattered. The rest hesitated. For the first time, Daniel saw fear in their alien eyes. But more were coming. The sky above rumbled as another ship descended, dropping fresh troops. Daniel grabbed Solara's arm. "We can't fight them all." She turned to him, her face unreadable. "You are right, but we can survive." Together they fled again, slipping into a narrow street between ruins. Blaster fire rained down, burning holes in the walls. Daniel's legs screamed with pain, but adrenaline kept him moving. At last they ducked into an abandoned structure, its roof half collapsed, its interior filled with shadows. Daniel pressed his back against the wall, chest heaving. He looked at her, eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you? No one should move like that. No one should fight like that." Solara wiped dust from her face, her glowing eyes neven, her dimming. "I told you," she said softly. "I am from a warrior race. We are not weak. We are not prey. We are the hunters." Daniel swallowed hard. "Then why do they want you so badly? If you're this strong, why risk putting yourself in a cage at all?" Her gaze locked on his, sharp and unblinking. "Because I needed to find you." Daniel shook his head, frustrated. "You keep saying that. Why me? Why a human? You could have picked anyone else in that cursed market." Solara stepped closer, her voice low. "No, only you. Before Daniel could answer, the building shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The hunters had found them. Solara grabbed his hand. This way. They sprinted deeper into the ruins. Walls cracked as explosions followed. The hunters were relentless, their shouts echoing like thunder. Daniel's mind raced. He had no weapon, no plan, no chance. He was just a man being dragged along by a being he didn't understand, and yet some part of him trusted her. They burst into open ground again. Ahead, a collapsed bridge stretched over a black chasm, the only path forward. Daniel skidded to a stop. We can't cross that. It'll never hold. Solara's eyes glowed brighter. Then we jump. Before Daniel could protest, she pulled him with her, leaping into the void. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but the howl of the wind and the weightless drop of death. Then they landed hard on the other side, stone cracking under Solara's strength. Daniel collapsed, gasping, clutching the ground. Behind them, the hunters reached the edge of the chasm, but none dared follow. They shouted in anger, their voices fading as the ships pulled back. For now, they were safe. Daniel rolled onto his back, staring at the alien sky, heart hammering. He turned his head toward Solara. You're insane, he whispered. But without you, I'd already be dead. Solara crouched beside him, her silver eyes burning like stars. And without you, she said softly, I would still be in chains. Daniel's throat tightened. He didn't cry. Now whether to run from her or stay close. But deep down, he realized the truth. He couldn't leave her, not anymore. The ruins lay silent after the chase. Smoke drifted from the broken bridge and the echo of hunters' voices faded into the night. Daniel lay on the cold ground, chest rising and falling in heavy breaths. His body ached, his legs shook, and every muscle screamed for rest. Beside him, Solara stood tall, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She didn't look tired, she didn't even look human. She looked like something ancient and powerful, wrapped in the form of a girl. Daniel finally forced himself to sit up. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and glared at her. This has to stop, he said, his voice raw. I need answers. No more riddles, no more running. What do you want from me? Why won't you leave me alone? Solara crouched in front of him, her face calm, unreadable. For a long moment, she simply studied him, as if weighing his spirit. Then she spoke softly. Because you are mine. Daniel's stomach twisted. No, I am not anyone's. I'm not your master. I'm not your... whatever you think I am. Her eyes glowed brighter. Not master, bondmate. Daniel felt the words slam into him like a hammer. He shook his head, disbelief clawing at him. You keep saying that. Bondmate. What does it even mean? Solara's voice grew lower, steadier. Among my people, when we choose, it is forever. It is not like your human words of love or marriage. It is deeper. It is written in blood and spirit. When we see the one, we do not turn away. That is the bond. Daniel stared at her. That's insane. You don't even know me. You saw me for the first time tonight. You can't just decide something like that. Her gaze didn't falter. I can. I have. Daniel laughed bitterly, though the sound was hollow. You think this is some kind of fate? Some cosmic connection? I'm just a man, Solara, a man who came here to make a deal, to pay off his debts. I'm nothing special. Solara leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but her words carried the weight of iron. You are human. That is enough. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to push her away, to reject the madness in her eyes. But deep inside, a part of him shivered, not with fear, but with something else. She continued, her eyes never leaving his. My people are warriors. We are strong, feared, unbroken. But strength alone is not enough. We need something more, something only your kind carries. Hope, defiance, the will to fight even when the universe itself says you cannot win. That is why I chose you. Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, but the memory of the chase clawed at his mind. The way he had refused to give up even when death closed in. The way he had dragged her through the smoke, through the fire, when he could have abandoned her. He shook his head. You're wrong about me. I'm not a fighter. I run from my problems. I hide. Solara touched his hand. Her skin was hot, almost burning, but not painful. The warmth sank into him, steadying his racing heart. You fight, she whispered. Even now, against me, against yourself. That is what makes you strong. Daniel froze, his words caught in his throat. Her touch felt different, gentle, not forceful, yet impossible to resist. He pulled his hand back quickly, breaking the contact. No, stop. Whatever this bond is, I didn't choose it. You can't just chain me to you because of some tradition. Solara's eyes softened, but her voice held firm. The bond is not chains. It is life. It is survival. You will see. In time. Daniel clenched his fists. And if I refuse? For the first time, Solara's expression changed. A flicker of sadness crossed her face, brief but real. She looked down, her silver eyes dimming. Then you will suffer, and so will I. The bond is not easily broken. The air between them grew heavy with silence. Daniel turned away, staring at the Dista. And fires in the city. His mind spun with fear, anger, confusion. Yet beneath it all, something else stirred, an unwilling pull toward her words. Finally, he muttered, "This is insane. I don't want this." Solara rose to her feet, her voice calm again. "You will understand. Soon." Before Daniel could reply, a sharp sound broke the silence. The distant growl of engines, ships, more hunters. Solara's eyes snapped toward the horizon. She held out her hand to him. "They come again. You must choose. Hide with me or die alone." Daniel stared at her hand, his breath caught in his chest. His heart screamed to run, to leave her, to break free of this nightmare, but his body wouldn't move. Because deep down, he knew the truth. Without her, he would already be dead. And that terrified him more than the hunters themselves. Slowly, with shaking fingers, Daniel reached out and took her hand. Solara's lips curved into the faintest smile. Her eyes glowed brighter, fierce, and unyielding. "The bond grows," she whispered. The engines roared closer, the night trembled, and together they disappeared into the shadows, bound by something Daniel could not understand and could not escape. The night sky was alive with fire. Engines roared above the ruins, louder and closer than before. Daniel and Solara ran through broken streets, their shadows stretching long under the glare of searchlights. The hunters were coming again, but this time something was different. Daniel could feel it in the air. He could taste the fear in his throat. These were not ordinary raiders or black market soldiers. Something worse was coming. Solara slowed as they reached the remains of an old plaza. Cracked stone, shattered statues, and the skeletons of alien buildings surrounded them. She turned her glowing eyes to the sky, her chains hanging ready in her hands. Daniel bent over, gasping for air. "We can keep running forever. They'll hunt us down no matter where we go." Solara nodded once, calm and unshaken. "Then we stand here. The real enemy arrives." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, a deep voice rolled across the plaza, shaking the ground like thunder. "Solara!" Daniel froze. The sound wasn't just loud, it was filled with power, the kind that made his bones feel heavy. From the largest ship above, a figure descended. He was massive, taller than any alien Daniel had seen, his body wrapped in armor that glowed with burning red lines. His skin was dark as stone, his eyes glowing like molten fire. In his hands, he carried a blade longer than Daniel's body, humming with energy. The hunters stepped back as the warlord landed, his boots cracking the stone beneath him. Silence fell across the plaza. Solara's eyes narrowed, her voice was cold steel. "Vorak!" Daniel's breath caught. Even her voice carried hatred when she spoke the name. The warlord smiled, his teeth sharp as blades. "You should never have escaped, Solara. You belong to me. The market was only the beginning. I paid for your chains. I will pay again for your blood." Solara's grip tightened on her chains, but her face stayed calm. "You cannot bind me, Vorak. You never could." Vorak's gaze shifted, settling on Daniel. The fire in his eyes burned brighter. "And this? Human? This fragile thing is what you run for? What you protect?" Daniel stiffened under the warlord's stare, his knees threatening to give way. He felt like an insect being studied by a predator. Vorak laughed, a deep booming sound. "Pathetic. I will crush him first. Then you will remember where you belong." Daniel's heart hammered. He wanted to run, to hide, but Solara stepped in front of him, her glowing eyes sharp as blades. "No," she said firmly. "He is mine." Vorak snarled. "Then he dies with you." With a roar, the warlord charged, his massive blade cutting through the air. The ground shook with every step. Solara moved to meet him, her chains lashing out in arcs of silver. Ear light. They clashed in the center of the plaza, sparks exploding with every strike. Her chains wrapped around his blade, but Vorak tore free with brute strength, swinging at her with devastating force. Daniel stumbled back, watching in horror. The clash was like thunder, too fast for his eyes to follow. Solara was quick, her movements sharp and graceful, but Vorak was relentless, every blow strong enough to shatter stone. "Solara!" Daniel shouted helplessly. She didn't answer. Her focus was locked on the warlord. She ducked under a swing, her chain slamming into his armor. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground, but Vorak barely staggered. He swung back, his blade grazing her side. Sparks of glowing blood sprayed into the air. Daniel's chest tightened. She was hurt. Still, Solara didn't fall. She struck again and again, faster, harder, her glowing eyes blazing with fury. But Vorak only laughed, feeding on the fight. "You cannot win, Solara. You are strong, but you are alone." Solara's voice cut through the clash, sharp and defiant. "I am not alone," Vorak sneered. "The human, he is nothing." Daniel felt the words stab deep. He wanted to deny it, but fear held him down. He had no weapon, no power, nothing to stand against a monster like Vorak. He was nothing but dead weight. And yet, Solara bled for him. She fought for him. Something inside Daniel snapped. He couldn't just watch. Not anymore. He looked around desperately, his eyes landing on the ruins. Among the rubble, a fallen rifle lay in the dust, dropped by one of the hunters. His hands shook as he grabbed it, the weapon heavy and alien in his grip. Vorak slammed Solara back, her body hitting the broken wall with a sickening crack. She dropped to one knee, glowing blood dripping onto the stone. Daniel raised the rifle, his heart racing. His voice broke as he shouted, "Leave her alone!" He fired. The bolt streaked across the plaza, striking Vorak's armor. It didn't pierce, but it made the warlord turn his head in surprise. For the first time, Vorak's eyes left Solara. And in that heartbeat, Solara moved. She surged forward with a roar, her chain wrapping around his blade. With one powerful twist, she yanked the weapon down, slamming her fist into his chest. The impact echoed like an explosion. Vorak staggered back, snarling, his armor cracked. Solara's voice was fierce as she stood tall again, glowing blood staining her skin. "He is not nothing. He is mine." Daniel's throat tightened. He had never heard anyone say words like that for him, not with such fire, not with such truth. Vorak roared in fury, his blade humming as he raised it again. "Then both of you will die." The night shook with the promise of death as the battle raged on, and Daniel realized with terror and with something else that he could not run anymore. Because the bond between them was no longer just her choice, it was his too. The plaza burned with smoke and fire. Shattered stone littered the ground, glowing from the heat of battle. Daniel's hands trembled as he gripped the alien rifle, his chest heaving with every breath. Before him, Solara stood tall despite her wounds, glowing blood streaking down her side. Her silver eyes blazed with fury and pain. Across from her, Vorak, the warlord, still towered, his armor cracked but unbroken, his blade humming with deadly light. The silence between them lasted only a heartbeat. Then Vorak roared and charged. Solara met him in the center once more. The clash shook the ruins. Chains and blade crashed together, sparks flying, the sound like thunder rolling through the night. Daniel stumbled back, nearly blinded by the force of their strikes. He had never seen such power. Solara fought like fire itself, swift and merciless, while Vorak moved like a mountain breaking the earth. But Daniel saw something else. Solara's movements slowing, her wounds weakening her. She couldn't keep this up. "Solara!" he shouted, but his voice was drowned by the clash. Vorak's blade slammed down, forcing her to her knees. The stone cracked under the strike, dust rising in choking clouds. She caught the blade with her chains, but her arms shook, her strength faltering. Vorak leaned close, his molten eyes blazing. "You cannot protect him. You cannot even protect yourself." Solara's lips curled into a faint smile, blood trailing from the corner of her mouth. "I don't need to protect myself. Only him." With a sudden burst of strength, she twisted the blade aside and drove her fist into Vorak's chest. The warlord staggered back, but not far. He laughed, the sound cruel and booming. "You bleed, Solara. You weaken. Soon you fall. And when you do, I will crush the human skull before your eyes." Daniel's heart pounded like a drum. He couldn't let it happen. He couldn't just stand and watch anymore. His hands shook as he lifted the rifle again. He aimed, breathing hard, sweat burning his eyes. He fired. The bolt struck Vorak's armor, sparking against the cracks Solara had made earlier. Vorak snarled, turning toward Daniel. "Ah, the insect bites." Daniel's blood froze as the warlord's eyes locked onto him. Vorak raised his blade and began to stride forward, each step heavy, unstoppable. Daniel tried to fire again, but the rifle beeped, empty, useless. He dropped it, backing away, his legs trembling. Solara's voice cut through the smoke. "Daniel, do not run!" But fear was stronger. His body screamed at him to move, to escape. He turned, ready to flee. Then he saw her. Solara still standing, blood pouring down her side, her silver eyes locked on him, not begging, not commanding, just watching to see what choice he would make. Daniel froze, His breath came fast, his heart a storm. He could run, he could survive, he could leave her to die. But deep inside, a fire sparked. The same fires Solara had spoken of. The stubbornness, the defiance, the will to fight, even when all odds said no. For the first time, he understood. He turned back to face Vorak, fists clenched, standing tall despite the terror in his veins. His voice shook, but it carried through the smoke. "You want me? Then you go through me." Vorak paused, his molten eyes narrowing. Then he laughed, a cruel booming sound. "Brave words, worthless human." He raised his blade, ready to strike, but Solara moved. With a roar that shook the air, she launched herself forward, chains blazing with silver fire. She struck Vorak with everything she had left, her body slamming into his with the force of a storm. The plaza exploded in light and sound as their clash lit the night. Daniel shielded his eyes from the blast. When the smoke cleared, he saw them both lying on the ground. Solara crawled toward him, her body trembling, glowing blood staining the stone. Vorak rose slowly, his armor shattered, his body burned, but still alive. Daniel dropped to his knees beside Solara. He lifted her into his arms, his chest tight with fear. "No, no, stay with me. Don't leave me." Her silver eyes flickered weakly, but she smiled. "Now, you understand." Daniel's throat burned. "Understand what?" "That the bond is real," she whispered. "You are mine, and I am yours." He shook his head, tears stinging his eyes. "No, don't talk like that. You're not dying. I won't let you." Her hand brushed his cheek, warm even through the blood. "You must choose, Daniel. Run and live alone, or stay and fight with me. But the bond will cost everything." Behind them, Vorak's shadow loomed, his blade rising once more. His voice was like thunder. "Enough games. Both of you die now." Daniel's heart pounded. His mind screamed at him to run, to survive, to escape the nightmare. But his arms held Solara tighter. His eyes burned with fire. He looked up at Vorak, his voice breaking but fierce. "No, I choose her." The warlord roared, his blade descending, and the world went white.